see if we don't do this. Now, I'm not so naive as to believe that we can grow and or harness entirely all of our energy needs. That's something to be worked toward. I'm not so much, don't have second sight. I can't tell how much we're actually going to be able to do, but I know we're not going to do anything unless we get started, unless we start making the investment in human capital that goes along with the investment in financial capital. And that means education. But this involves, whether it's food production or whether it's energy renewal, recycling, or energy independence itself, involves setting priorities based on our values. This is not a budgetary problem. This is the challenge of values. The budget is going to be what it is. If anybody's kidding themselves to think we're going to make some miraculous financial recovery in the next 5 years, dream on. That isn't going to happen. We have to deal with the revenues as they are and the budget as it is and set priorities based on our values. That's the way we have to work this. And it can't be done on the basis of personal political agendas. We have to completely transform our vision of what we think politics is all about. It is not about me. It is not about any other candidate for governor or any other office. What is useful or advantageous to me or to any other politician should be the furthest thought from your mind. We have to have a politics in which the public officials are catalysts for the kind of change that needs to take place and affect our pass-throughs of policy with regard to sustainability, to energy production, food production, and the recovery that's associated with it. Now, let me give an example of what needs to be addressed in this regard. Take Maui, for instance. There has been what to me is a very sad argument that I've observed from a distance, and now that I'm traveling full-time around the state, I see it up close, about water. Now, I started my campaign in 1974. I'm doing this strictly for reference. In 1974, as a candidate for the State House of Representatives in Manoa Valley and Nakiki, over on Oahu, and I put out a little pamphlet, which I mimeographed, right? I'm talking about the last century, which I mimeographed on water. And I had people tell me, you must be nuts. Water? How can you run for office on the basis that we need to sustain our water supply in terms of being pure, in terms of being adequate, in terms of being sufficient to enable us to have a secure water supply and environmentally sustainable water supply? You got it. I said, it's what we called in those days was carrying capacity. And now you have a different with sustainability. No offense to South Maui sustainability, but this is I'm not going to say a variation, but it's the next manifestation of what instinctively some of us knew back in the 1970s, that we were going to have to deal with questions of water. Why is there an argument? Why should there be an argument between whether or not we can have new entrepreneurial sustainable agriculture to help grow food for ourselves, to help grow products we can export, that provide for other people, and whether or not there should be traditional stream flow and the capacity to grow taro and or respect ancient and customary Hawaiian traditions of gathering, including fishing and all the rest of it in streams. Why are we not letting our diversity define us rather than divide us? We say that we do that with respect to culture, with respect to race, with respect to gender, with respect to political and cultural traditions in Hawaii. We respect one another. We don't let it divide us. That's the kind of message that Barack Obama took to the country and won the presidential election on, that our diversity should define us rather than divide us. Why then, if we know and recognize that we need diversity in agriculture, do we let the question of how we do that divide us when it comes to something as fundamental as water? What we need to have, I think, in that context is a dialogue and a discussion about how can we accommodate the legitimate necessities with regard to water for everybody. Can that be done? Now, I think it can be. One of the things I've asked is, why is there this argument about if we get the water, you can't have any? Or if we have some, we're not going to give it to you. Or we didn't get enough, and we deserve more, and so we want it, or however it works out. And then we're left as spectators in that. I said, why don't we build reservoirs? Why don't we, and I said to Mayor Tavares today when I came over, I said, you don't have to write a letter of thanks. She said, what do you mean? I said, I brought the rain with me. Usually you talk about bringing the sunshine, right? But in Maui, you know, with the drought, I got notes to myself in here where it says the drought, these are drought circumstances. Well, what do we do in those stories? If we're going to sustain ourselves, what we got to do is show a little aloha for one another. We need taro, and we should have taro, but we need a new agriculture. We've got hundreds of people, and a legacy, a history, with regard to sugarcane and pineapple that you just don't toss in the junk heap of history. Not with living, breathing human beings, you don't. We cannot take an attitude towards each other, that's tough. Too bad for you. There's plenty of that already with Goldman Sachs and the Wall Street guys and all the rest of it. We know how that works. That's not Hawaii. So my whole point is, I didn't come here tonight to say, whether it's on water or energy or anything else, that I got some magic solution. A good thing you came tonight, because I got all the answers. Aren't you lucky? I didn't show up at 6 o'clock this morning in Maui saying, I'm here from Oahu and I'm here to tell you what to do. I know all the answers. Although I do know that I got up in the dark, and when I got to my first stop, it was still dark. And what that meant to me is that a lot of the political decision-making that has been going on in the state has been Oahu-centric. It's all about Oahu, and very little to do with the neighbor islands. Oh, you get a nod and a wink and a nod. Oh yeah, neighbor island, sure, we're with you, and then you disappear. Whether it's the TV news or the newspapers, or the newspaper, I should say, because I don't think we're going to have too much longer of statewide papers. So my view is, on this is that we have to go for solutions and for answers to you and to the neighbor islands. I think everything's happening on the neighbor islands. That's where the innovation is. That's where we're finding models for sustainability that we haven't even begun to think about on Oahu yet. And that's the kind of thing that I think we need to do. Take water in Molokai, this is Maui County. When I go to see the homesteaders on Molokai, I got told to my face, we can be the breadbasket of the state. I remember Uncle came to see me over by the fish pond that's being restored on Molokai right now. I mean, we think about it. Sustainability is not new. The Hawaiians grew fish.